What's up guys, my name is Ace, and with the beta for Modern Warfare right around the corner, and who knows, maybe by the time this video goes live, they'll have the servers turned on early, I wanted to share several tips and things that I feel you should know before getting into the beta to not only help you succeed gameplay-wise, but also just to help you have a productive beta experience. Some of these things will be gameplay related to help you get into the game for the first time, and some of it will be stuff outside of the gameplay relating to the beta. First off, let's focus on the stuff that is gameplay related. And the very first thing that I recommend for you guys is to mix things up throughout the beta. Try new things. Try as many guns as you possibly can. Maybe even every gun in the game. Mix up your attachments. There's a ton of attachments to work with and use and try out. Mix those up a little bit. Also, when it comes to actually playing the game, mix up your playstyles a bit. Don't be afraid to move around and try and learn the maps. This is the best time to do that, especially for those people that are generally worried about their kill-death ratio and their stats and everything. Those stats won't carry over from the beta into the full build of the game, so don't worry about what your kill-death ratio is in this. Move around, get a feel for things. This is going to help you in the long run, especially when you get into the game at launch. You'll already have a good feel for the maps if you're somebody that's been moving around throughout the beta. Don't be that guy that just goes to the same spot and camps out a room and just sits in a corner waiting for people. You won't learn the maps very well by doing that, and you won't really get a good feel for the game overall because you'd be playing in such a one-dimensional way. Now, even though I do strongly encourage you guys to mix things up and try new things like new weapons and new attachments and stuff, I do want to share a few tips when it comes to setting things up before the game, like with your classes as well as your kill streaks, for instance. I'm not going to be that guy trying to give you best class setups before the beta even drops because that would be just ridiculous. I do have a few in mind that might be kind of optimal, but hey, they might not be once we actually get into the game. In either case, the first thing I want to point out for you guys is without the minimap in this game, personal radars and UAVs are vital. Especially since we're just getting into the game for the first time. We don't know the maps very well. We don't know how enemies are going to play and where they're going to flow and all the common choke points and the spawn points. We don't know that kind of stuff yet. And therefore, having that mini-map and having that personal radar and UAV up is going to be so important to help you learn the maps as efficiently as possible. So while it might be tempting to just put on those highest kill streaks in the game and try and go for those, I strongly encourage you guys to run personal radar and or the UAV. For me, I'm honestly going to be running both of those, especially at the beginning of the beta. I'm going to be running both of those, possibly with Hardline as well. So I'm constantly going to have that mini-map up, which will help me learn the maps and the spawns much more effectively. But if you think that's overkill to use both, that's fine. Just make sure you're using at least one of those. This will help your learning experience tremendously. Going off of that note, when you're first hopping into a game with new maps and new mechanics and everything, anything that can help you with your awareness of what's going on around you, I find is extremely helpful for learning new maps. You won't have everything down as muscle memory yet, and therefore you need all the help that you can get, and this is why when it comes to perks on your class, I did want to encourage you guys to use a couple of the awareness style perks, like Tracker for instance. You can see those enemy footsteps and they fade away over time, but you can see where enemies have been recently, and additionally, and probably more importantly with the Tracker perk in this game, you get those little death skulls that appear above your teammates when your teammates are killed. Without the Tracker perk in this game, those skulls won't appear for you, and therefore you might not recognize that a teammate has died in a particular area. So having those little skulls can help give you that indication that there may be an enemy over in that area. Additionally, there's the High Alert perk. This is the one that's like Perception from Infinite Warfare, if you guys remember that. Basically, if an enemy is looking at you from outside of your field of view, you'll get like a little yellow glow around the edges of your screen. Again, this is just going to help you in those situations where maybe you didn't realize an enemy could get a line of sight from your side or from behind you because you simply don't know the maps yet. So this kind of thing will give you that little early indicator to help you get out of that situation and help you learn the maps and the lines of sight a little bit better. Now, to be clear, further down the road, I probably will never touch these perks. I don't think I'll be using them once I get a good feel for the maps. But just when you're first getting into the game, I feel like perks like this are going to help quite a bit when it comes to learning the game. Additionally with perks, I have a couple others that I do want to recommend for you guys. Again, I do encourage you to mix things up, but these are just things that I think will definitely help, especially in the really early stages of the game when nobody really knows anything. Both of these perks are in the tier 2 slot, at least in the build that we played. Who knows, maybe things change for the beta build here. But these two perks are going to be Ghost or Hardline. Now, like I said, I'm probably going to be using Hardline on a lot of my classes so I can get a personal radar at 2 kills and then a UAV at 3 kills, so I can pretty much always have that minimap up. But on the other end of that, there's going to be a lot of other enemies using that strategy, and this is why Ghost might be a good choice as well. I'm definitely anticipating there's going to be a lot of UAV spam, and therefore having a perk like Ghost is going to be very helpful to you. Otherwise, the enemies are just going to chase your dot around and get that easy kill on you. By using Ghost in these early stages, you really take advantage of the fact that nobody knows what they're doing, and this can be quite an effective strategy. Now, the next tip that I have for you guys when it comes to actually creating your classes, this is getting into the gunsmith and all of the attachments. Just remember that attachments in this game have downsides as well as upsides. This means that you can absolutely make a gun worse for you by putting the wrong attachments on. You have to be very careful about your attachment selection. When I first got into this game with limited amount of time to really set up my classes for the gunsmith because we were at an event and we were just trying to get into the game as fast as possible, I was just throwing on all of the attachments that I would normally throw on my class. I was like, oh yeah, I need a stock, I need a sight, I need this, I need that. And I threw it on there, and it turns out I made a horrible gun that was painfully slow in the sprint out and aim down sight department, and it just felt so bad. So don't fall into that same trap. Really take your time looking at those attachments and how they're going to affect your gun, so you don't end up making a gun that is actually worse for you and your playstyle. Now, one nice thing about this create a class stuff that I'm telling you guys about is if you do make a wrong choice, or if you do want to make an adjustment in the middle of a game, you can do that with Modern Warfare. You can change your classes mid-game, no problem. Just hit start, go to your class. There should be a little edit button there. And therefore, if you realize, wow, the enemies are really spamming a lot of UAVs, you can switch over to Ghost. Or if you realize, like, man, this sight is really slowing my aim down sight time down, and I don't like that. I want to speed it back up a little bit. Hop into that edit screen and take that sight off. This class editing tool is also going to be great early on for testing things out. Maybe you're not too sure if you want to use a particular attachment. You can pop it on, try it out a little bit, see how it feels. If you don't like it, try something else. You can do all of this stuff on the fly in the game itself. Now, unfortunately, that does take away from your time actually in-game helping your team out, which is a little bit annoying, and I think a firing range would be better for that. But at least we do have that option, and don't be afraid to use it. This brings us to the next tip, and this one applies mainly to the people that have been playing a lot of Call of Duty over the past few years. And this tip is, be very careful about when you're sprinting, and especially when you're using that super sprint mechanic, which you can use by double tapping the sprint button. The reason for this is the sprint out times in this game are a little bit slower from what we're used to in most of the recent Call of Duty games. They're not quite as slow as the COD World War II sprint out times at launch. That was definitely a little bit slower than this, but it is pretty close to that. So for those people, especially in Black Ops 4 that use gung-ho all the time, that are used to sprinting around like crazy and then just snapping on a target coming out of sprint, you can't do that in this game. So you might have to slow your playstyle down a little bit and just be a little bit more methodical about how you move around the map. Again, I'm not suggesting that you just sit in one spot or anything. You can still be relatively aggressive and make pushes across the map. You just have to be a bit more careful about that if you want to stay alive and therefore better learn the game. Because if you're dying repeatedly, you're probably not going to be learning the maps nearly as effectively as if you're keeping a streak going. And with that, that's pretty much all of the tips I wanted to mention that are going to directly affect your gameplay experience within the beta. Of course, if you're looking for much more specific tips, like best class setups, for instance, I will be doing tip videos like that throughout the beta weekends, just to help you guys along a little bit more, but I need more playtime myself to properly develop those tips. Otherwise, I'm basically just speculating, and the tips might not hold any weight whatsoever. So if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do that. Now I wanted to talk about something outside the actual gameplay of the beta, and this is providing your feedback to the developers. This is a very important part about the beta experience. A lot of people like to joke that the betas for Call of Duty are essentially just a glorified demo, and I somewhat agree with that because they do have them so close to launch. But having said that, there's still quite a bit of room for some changes to be made with the game before launch. And the developers want this feedback. So if you guys are looking for a place to give the feedback directly to the developers, I believe you can go like directly to the Activision forums, but I think the best place to reach the developers is honestly going to be Reddit. I will leave a link to the Modern Warfare subreddit down below. I'm not like affiliated with that at all. I don't gain anything about sending you guys there. Honestly, it's just the best place to have conversations about the game, share your opinions, As well as, even if you don't want to be talking a lot on that Reddit, you can just show support for feedback that you agree with by giving upvotes, for instance. The developers at Infinity Ward are definitely there on that subreddit every day. Even when you don't see them, they're there, they are reading that feedback, and they will take a lot of that into consideration. Sharing that feedback throughout the beta is very important because you absolutely can shape the direction that the game goes, at least to some extent. Of course, like I said, they can't make any massive changes at this point, but they can make some great quality of life changes, and they can make adjustments to various gameplay elements to make the game better overall. Now, I did want to address something because there's always these people, and I'm probably going to get a few in the comments down below here. Some people say you shouldn't give feedback, stop complaining about the game, or you're just crying about this. We should just trust the developers, they know what they're doing, and we should trust their vision. This kind of stuff is ridiculous. I've spoken with the developers at Infinity Ward, as well as the other development teams over the years. I've spoken directly with developers, and they love this kind of feedback. They really want to see this feedback because they want to see where everything stands with the community, and they actually do care about what we think. Even if they don't necessarily make all the changes we want them to make, they do want to see this feedback to see where they stand and where their ideas ended up landing once they eventually make it to the hands of the consumer. Now, as always, please be respectful and constructive with your feedback and your criticism. Don't be that guy that's like, this is dumb, Infinity Ward's so incompetent, nobody's going to take you seriously, nobody's going to listen to you. If you disagree with a design decision, or you find some room for improvement, lay it out, try to explain why you feel the way you do, which helps the developers gain some insight as to the root of the issue that you're experiencing, and this can help them out tremendously. But with that, I feel like that's a good place to leave this video. I'm so excited for the beta this week. Once again, just a reminder, if you guys wanted to start like pre-building classes in your head, or you just want to gain a better understanding for the gunsmith and all of the attachments and pros and cons of those attachments, I'm going to leave a link down below to the video that goes through all of that stuff in great detail. It's a great way to kill time and better understand the game before the beta drops. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.